我们最后一位演讲者是我们的党秘书长林鼎先生，他拥有英国剑桥法学系硕士，目前他是在一间公司作为法律顾问。Let us welcome our Party SG Mr. Lim Tian.
谢谢你，谢谢你。Dear voters of Tampines, very good evening to you. This is my first time addressing all of you, and it is an honor for me. It is an honor for me to be standing with my team to be candidates in Tampines GRC for this election. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, in this election, the NSP insists on speaking on only 4 issues, which are the most important issues facing Singaporeans today. They are the issue of the CPF personal life savings, the foreign labor problem, the overpopulation, and finally, the relentless rising cost of living. We do not have the Swiss standard of living, but we have more than the Swiss cost of living. We are today the most expensive city in the world. Now, let's think about it. If we combine these 4 issues together, what is the basic principle behind it? The principle is this, that it is the solemn duty of government to take care of its own people, of its own kind. Now, it was interesting for me to read in the newspaper the other day what the Prime Minister said in the PAP political broadcast. You remember that broadcast where 9 political parties or 8 political parties spoke to you on television, and I represented the NSP. But I want to read you an excerpt from the Prime Minister's speech which he delivered on behalf of the PAP. And I want us to go over this paragraph carefully and see whether the PAP is living up to its promises, its commitment to Singapore. What did he say that night? He said, and I quote him, "We aim to be a nation where the elderly lead dignified lives, where the middle income have their burdens shared, where we care for the weak and the poor, and no one is left behind." A favorite PAP phrase, no one is left behind. "And where the young have every encouragement and hope to do well." Now let's take each sentence and see whether that is true, whether what the PAP is saying to the Singapore people is true. The first sentence, "We aim to be a nation where the elderly lead dignified lives." Let's begin with that. Do you think that statement is true? No. Today, we have our elderly people having to collect cardboards to make a living. Yes, you are right. And we have a minister who tells these people that they are doing it for an exercise to supplement their income.
They're supposed to relax, not to work.
I think that is such an insult to these people. No elderly person wishes to collect cardboards for an exercise. And you know what? Worse still, even these elderly couple have foreign competitors. Even these elderly people have foreign talent competing with them to collect cardboards. Now, can our ministers empathize? Can they empathize? When their job is probably one of the few in the economy that is not subject to foreign competition? And then you have another minister years ago who told our elderly, well, if they could not afford to live in Singapore, they could go and live in JB. You tell me, we are an Asian society. We were brought up to believe in filial piety, in taking care of our parents. Which children, which child amongst all of us here will want to send the aged parent to a foreign land across the causeway to live there and to die there? But these are the comments we are getting from the PAP. And when you hear those comments, do you feel the pride in being a Singaporean? Let me now move on to his next sentence, the Prime Minister's next sentence. Where the middle income have their burdens shared. I can't think of an example. I really can't think of an example where the government is sharing in the burdens of the middle income. Can you? You tell me what program the government has in place to ease the burden of the middle income group. Today, our middle income professionals are subject to competition from foreign talent, so-called foreign talent. We are the only first world country in the world, and we call ourselves a first world country now. We are the only first world country in the world with such liberal policies that allow in foreign workers who take away the jobs of Singaporeans. You tell me whether you can go to America, you can go to Canada, you can go to Britain, to any European country, or you can go to Japan, and you can go and get a job there and displace one of their own citizens. And do you know what is the only answer this government can give us when we protest? The only answer they can give us is that, oh, we have moderated, we have slowed the growth of the foreign professionals, the foreign workers in Singapore. Mr. Lim Swee Say said the other night, oh, we have slowed down the growth of it. So last year it slowed from 45,000 jobs for foreign professionals foreign professionals to 13,000 jobs. But do you know there's one statistic which they do not reveal to us? I want to know how many jobs in the last 10 years or the last 15 years Singaporeans have lost to foreigners. I want to know every year how many jobs Singaporeans, that Singapore professional loses out to a foreigner. But these are things they don't reveal. Today, so many of our very educated, very talented, middle-income professionals have lost their jobs, and they have to resort to doing other type of work to make a living, to support their families. Yes, to drive a taxi. And that was the example I brought up when I had that live forum on nomination day. With the PAP members. And you know, ladies and gentlemen, I went to the studio without knowing what the format of the debate was about. When I arrived there, I was told, oh, you got to give a 1-minute opening statement, you have to give a 1-minute closing statement, and you're given 30 seconds to respond to what the PAP team says. Yeah. And you saw our PAP counterparts coming there armed with bundles of documents, all obviously well prepared, knowledgeable about the format of the debate. So I did the best I could. But I am very proud. I am very proud of our middle-income professionals, because you know I take a lot of taxis and I take the MRT as well. And I'm telling you, when you speak to these taxi drivers, you realize how much they know. I cannot even hold a candle to them in many conversations. They are far superior to me. They can tell me what is the pH of the body that is needed to stay healthy. They can tell you everything. And we grew up in a Singapore where we were made to believe that this nation was built up with its only natural resource, its people. And yet we educate these people to a high level, but today the government discards them in favor of foreign talent, foreign people. Today, that middle-income professional who has lost his job, he not only had to compete with foreigners, he had to compete with an unfair system where government agencies were willing to entertain bogus degrees from degree mills, when that Singaporean spent at least 15 years of his life, nearly 20 years of his life, getting to university and maybe even a further degree and earning a proper, genuine degree. And the government calls that meritocracy. I am angry as a Singaporean when I hear of that. I am even angrier when the government of Singapore tells us, look here, we can close a blind eye to all these breaches because the experience of the foreigner counts. Singaporeans are hired by foreign countries to do jobs that require good planning, good decision making. You tell me, in what aspect is that Singaporean lacking or is behind his foreign counterpart? And now let's turn to the area of education. Today, that Singaporean father and mother is struggling to put their children through our university. And yet, we have a government and we have an education minister who is willing to subsidize the education of foreign students in Singapore to the tune of $400 million in the past. Now they claim it is $200 million. And you have seen around Tampines the posters we have put up, right? We have asked you the question, is $200 million spent on foreign students a good investment? Or is that $200 million spent on a Singapore student, on Singaporean students, a better investment? Ladies and gentlemen, in area after area, that Singaporean is being discriminated against.
Many times.
Many times, yes.
Too much. They're dying. They're dying.
And I think the only way you can change that, the only way you can make this government listen to you, is if you vote the NSP into Parliament. You know, on nomination day, the Prime Minister said to the press he was very disappointed in the performance of the opposition. He said that, I think he was referring to the Workers' Party. He was saying that voters had voted for tigers in the chamber and got a mouse instead.
We are disappointed at that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think maybe the colors of the Workers' Party, they're having the blue color, is not the right color for a tiger. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, the NSP wears orange. And if you vote the 12 of us into Parliament, we are going to be the tigers for you. We are going to ask the hard questions. We do not believe in destructive politics. We will not be obstructionists just for the sake of opposing. But I think the time has come where we must put a stop to this nonsense of trying to be a very pliant, a very meek opposition. You know, in the 1980s, when Chiam See Tong and Low Thia Khiang were in Parliament, they wanted to be the constructive opposition. I have no problems with that. But a constructive opposition doesn't mean a meek opposition. It means an opposition that will challenge the government, that will challenge them to the debate, that will engage them in a robust debate of the issues. Because if you do not have that, what do you get today? You get a government that breaks its promise to return CPF monies. You get a government that will allow foreigners in to take away Singapore jobs. You get a government that will allow overpopulation in this country. You allow a government that allows the cost of living to go sky high. This is the cost of not having an effective opposition in Parliament. You know, the PAP started this campaign by wanting to concentrate on only two things. They wanted to look backwards, what I call misguided nostalgia. They wanted to look back at what they had done for 50 years. They wanted to look back to what Lee Kuan Yew had done. They wanted to keep reminding Singapore of Lee Kuan Yew.
Yes, correct.
Even today, at all their rallies, you know, the backdrop to their rallies, there's a picture of Lee Kuan Yew there.
Yes. Better put a picture better. I will support you.
But ladies and gentlemen, as my friend has said, the past is the past. Where is the vision of the PAP for the future? There's absolutely no vision. And then in the last few days, they have supplemented their campaign with one more theme: fear-mongering. That if you don't vote them in, this whole country will collapse. Your estate will collapse. You know, I have been hearing this same message since the 1980s. That message has not changed for 35 years. Ladies and gentlemen, my last topic of the night is something every Singaporean is talking about. It is the question, it is the issue of your CPF personal life savings. I think all my teammates here and all my colleagues here from the Sembawang GRC, from Pioneer, have spoken about it tonight. And I do not want to repeat it too much. It is that this government has broken a sacred promise to you. You know, I am a lawyer by training. If a client comes to me, and that client happens to be a company that offers a life savings policy, and tells me, please defend me, I am supposed to give this money back next year. Please help me to find a defense so that I can defer payment for another 10 years. I tell you, as a lawyer, I will tell the client, don't waste my time. And you have heard from our president, Mr. Teo, the reason given by the PAP for not releasing this money. They say that some people will squander this money. Now, I'm not going to repeat how this thing can be solved. You are absolutely right. This is your money. If I want to go by a legal standpoint, you have the right to do anything you want with your money. But I want to take up the Prime Minister on a point he made at a rally last night. You know, he told Singaporeans, look here, the CPF returns you 5% on your special account, 6% on a retirement account. And this is something, and this is even better than what DBS UOB can offer you. But this is something that the opposition doesn't tell you about. Because if they did, you will not vote for them. That is not an answer to what we are saying and to what you are saying, because what you are saying is what you said earlier. This is our money. Return it to us. We have every right to do whatever we want with this money. I'm telling you, even if the CPF returns you 30%, 100% a year, it is still your right to decide whether you want to park your money in CPF. Am I right? Tonight or tomorrow morning, the NSP is going to post a statement on our Facebook and on our internet. And this is our response to the Prime Minister on the issue of the CPF. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have much time now. I want to round off. I want to round off tonight by saying that,
Whatever. You want justice?
to me, 2015 general elections is the real watershed elections of this decade. This is probably the last election when Singaporeans will have a chance
Wake up!
to express to this government their disapproval
Yes, correct.
of the government's policies in the 4 areas that we have highlighted in our manifesto. I think when we come to next general election, we will be too far down the road to change the direction of our country's population policy, of our country's immigration policy.
No problem. Always support you. No worry.
I hope that this election will inspire those Singaporeans who are in despair to hope, to have renewed hope that their elected representatives can treat them fairly. It can make them dream again. It can give inspiration to our younger generation
Younger generation. Yes, correct.
that
Yes.
they have a better future than their parents and not a lesser one. But we need your help, the voters of Tampines GRC, and I ask you for your trust to vote us into Parliament, to represent your interests, and to fight for you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Before we see you in the next rally, I need to make sure you guys know what to do on 11th of September. Who do you vote for? Who do you vote for? NSP! Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, vote NSP. Thank you. Good night.